Began left the convention located in a remote area northwest of Stockholm Monday morning local time. Arriving at a hotel in the Swedish capital, Began said he had a nice meeting with his counterpart.
Have you had a nice talk? Was it nice, please?
Later in the day, a vehicle carrying North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee also left the venue. South Korea's chief nuclear envoy Lee Do-hoon also took part in the three-way talks to seek a breakthrough on denuclearization. Although little is known about the outcome of the meeting as of now, the fact the meeting ended earlier than anticipated could signal that significant progress was made. As the delegations of the three countries are scheduled to leave Sweden on Tuesday, there's also the possibility of them sitting down for additional talks in Stockholm. Now all eyes are on what steps Pyongyang and Washington will take before their leaders meet face-to-face late next month. Kim Yo-sun, Arirang News.
A U.S. think tank has unveiled a North Korean missile base that it says has yet to be declared by the regime, according to Beyond Parallel, a project of the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington. The Shinori missile operating base, some 210 kilometers north of the demilitarized zone, is one of the oldest of the 20 or so such bases undeclared by the North. The report says the base houses a regiment-sized unit equipped with No-Dong-1 medium-range ballistic missiles and could have also played a role in developing the KN-15 ballistic missile that was first tested by the regime in early 2017. Now, following a closed-door meeting with lawmakers on Monday, South Korea's Foreign Minister Kang revealed Seoul and Washington profoundly disagree over defense cost sharing. Kang's remarks to reporters came as she had phone talks with her American counterpart Mike Pompeo earlier in the day. Kang said Seoul will exert all of its efforts to reach a deal that is affordable, rational and convincing to the National Assembly and the South Korean people. The allies have held 10 rounds of talks on how much each should pay to cover the costs of US troops stationed in Korea, but have failed to strike an agreement. South Korea's defense ministry has once again urged Japan to accept a scientific and objective process to verify the facts in the two sides' recent military dispute. This comes after Tokyo released audio files Monday that it claims prove a Japanese patrol aircraft was targeted by a South Korean warship in the East Sea. Seoul's response, quite simply, scientifically and objectively, the recording proves nothing at all. Park Ji-won reports.
South Korea's Ministry of National Defense expressed deep concern and regrets to Japan over the announcement Monday evening. Tokyo's defense ministry said on its website that it is ending consultations with South Korea over the matter and released audio files it claims to be the sound of electric waves from the targeting radar. Seoul's defense ministry said, however, the unidentified sounds provide nothing that can be verified scientifically or as evidence, such as the date it was recorded, the location, or the direction and frequency of the supposed radar emissions.
The sounds presented by Japan are unidentifiable mechanical sounds from which we can never verify the exact detection date, angle of direction, or characteristics of the radar frequencies, which are the elements that South Korea has demanded for the sake of objectivity. South Korea once again urges Japan to provide accurate evidence and accept a scientific and objective verification with the participation of radar experts from both countries.
A South Korea radar expert also said the audio files do not prove anything, lacking the key evidence of system log files.
The sound released by Japan is not a processed mechanical sound. Thus, we cannot confirm that it is the sound related to the fire control radar's frequency. In addition, Japan did not provide a system log file to prove its claim that the sound was acquired at the site.
South Korea's defense ministry also said the key matter of the dispute is what it called Japan's unmanly low-altitude flight near a South Korean warship on a humanitarian operation to rescue another ship in distress. It asked Japan to prevent it from happening again and to apologize. The ministry stressed, however, that South Korea will continue to pursue defense cooperation bilaterally with Washington and with Tokyo. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
South Korea's economy grew at its slowest pace in 6 years in 2018, mainly due to sluggish investment. According to the Bank of Korea on Tuesday, GDP increased by 2.7% last year, and that is the slowest pace since 2012. But it did meet the BOK's earlier growth forecast made in October of last year. The central bank says construction and facilities investment fell by 4% and 1.7% respectively. On a brighter note, exports of goods and services expanded by 4% and private consumption rose by 2.8%. During the October to December period, South Korea's GDP rose 1% on quarter. And South Korea's producer prices fell for the third month in a row in December, mainly on lower global oil prices. The Bank of Korea again says that last month's producer prices edged down 0.5% on month. Agricultural goods prices went up, but falling oil prices drove down industrial goods prices by more than 1%. Korea's benchmark Dubai crude tumbled nearly 13% on month to trade at an average of $57 after falling by more than 17% on month in November. Services prices remained virtually unchanged in December. Now, turning our attention to South Korea's top office now, and President Jaein will hold a cabinet meeting on Tuesday where he's expected to raise some of the pending economic issues facing the country, as well as ways to stabilize food prices ahead of the Lunar New Year holiday, now just 2 weeks away. Given the administration has been emphasizing its efforts to revitalize the economy since the turn of the year, it's likely President Moon will focus the majority of his remarks on fixing the economy. Another expected talking point is South Korea's fine dust problem and possible ways to counter the serious public health issue. Senior Blue House, ministerial and Democratic Party officials met on Tuesday to discuss a series of issues, including measures related to the Lunar New Year holidays. During their first joint meeting of 2019, officials vowed measures to help everyone, especially vulnerable groups in society, enjoy the holidays with their loved ones. They also said they will reduce the financial burden of the holidays by increasing the supply of products in high demand and providing discounts for transportation and gift items. The officials also agreed to work together to pass urgent economy-related bills, such as the Fair Trade Act and bills for small businesses, during the upcoming February extraordinary session. The International Monetary Fund has cut its world economic growth forecast for this year and the next, citing trade tensions and risks surrounding Brexit, especially a no-deal Brexit. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Arirang. Arirang, yet another grim outlook from those analysts there at the IMF.
That's right, Mark. The IMF predicts the global economy to grow at 3.5% in 2019 and 3.6% in the year 2020. It is the second downgrade in 3 months by the global lender. The previous forecast for this year was 3.7%. The IMF's latest report cited the unresolved trade war between the United States and China and the possibility, as you mentioned, of Brexit exiting the European Union without a deal. It also attributed the grim outlook to slowing economic growth in Europe, especially in Germany and Italy. At the World Economic Forum in Davos, IMF chief Christine Lagarde allayed fears of a global recession, but noted policymakers had to do more to slow the downturn.
Now, does that mean that a global recession is around the corner? No. But the risk of a sharper decline in global growth has certainly increased. Add to this the uncertainty, the geopolitical worries and disappointing long-term growth prospect, and you have an economic picture with a pretty clear message. And the message is the following for policymakers. Address remaining vulnerabilities and be ready if a serious slowdown were to materialize.
The IMF, however, maintained its US growth projections of 2.5% this year and 1.8% next year, pointing to continued strength in domestic demand. It also kept its China growth forecast for this year and next at 6.2%, but said economic activity could miss expectations if trade tensions with the US persist. However, Monday's IMF report came just hours after data showed China's growth last year dropped to its lowest in nearly 3 decades. French data regulators have fined Google €50 million or $57 million for breaching EU online privacy rules. It is the biggest such penalty levied against a US tech giant. French regulators said Google failed to provide enough information to users about its data consent policies and also didn't give them enough control over how their information is used. In a statement, Google said it was studying the decision to determine its next steps, adding it is committed to meeting high standards of transparency and control. Privacy groups first filed complaints against the firm in May last year when the EU's new General Data Protection Regulation took effect. The GDPR allows users to better control their personal data and gives regulators the power to impose fines of up to 4% of global revenue for violations. Venezuela says it has arrested 27 members of the country's National Guard accused of launching an uprising against the government of President Nicolas Maduro. They allegedly stole weapons from a security post in the capital, Caracas, and took 4 officers hostage before making their way to Cotitza in the early hours of Monday. The military said all weapons have since been retrieved. The suspects had posted videos online saying they won't recognize Maduro's government and that they were acting on behalf of the Venezuelan people. Maduro was sworn in for a second term earlier this month, which the opposition-controlled Congress, as well as many other nations, claim is the result of an illegitimate election.
Thank you, as always, to our Noah Ram for the world news. Now, South Korea are back in Asian Cup action in the UAE tonight. Paolo Bento's squad face a tricky Bahrain side in the round of 16. South Korea are the favourites on paper, but with injuries to some key players, there are no guarantees at all that they'll just cruise into the quarter-finals. Lee Seung-jae reports.
Expectation is high for South Korea's national football team as they look to win their first Asian Cup title in 59 years. It's been smooth sailing in the UAE so far. The Taeguk Warriors reached the round of 16 as comfortable Group C winners with 3 straight wins. Tuesday night's opponents, Bahrain, finished third in Group A with 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss. While South Korea might be the favorite on paper, head coach Paolo Bento insists it won't be an easy match. Despite the South Korean offense getting a much-needed boost thanks to the late addition of star striker Son Heung-min, Ki Sung-young has dropped from the roster and returned to Newcastle United after sustaining a hamstring injury. Bento also confirmed Lee Jae-sung will not play against Bahrain due to a toe injury he sustained during South Korea's opening match against the Philippines. Bento says his squad needs to be aware of Bahrain's quick transition from defense to offense, something South Korea's defenders have had issues dealing with in the past. Bahrain also boasts good attackers who are quick and powerful, and controlling the pace of the match is seen as key for a South Korea win. South Korea striker Hwang Hee-jo remains in great form. Bahrain will remember him as he scored a hat-trick against them at last year's Asian Games. The match kicks off at 10 p.m. Korea time. Meanwhile, another epic clash has been set up after Japan snuck past Saudi Arabia 1-0 on Monday. Japan's win means a quarterfinals matchup against Vietnam, as Vietnam's South Korean head coach Park Hang-seo looks to bump his legendary status in the Southeast Asian nation to the next level. 이승재, Arirang News.
Now, all it took was for one domino to fall for the rest to quickly follow. Yet more sexual abuse accusations have been raised by a group of female South Korean athletes. On the defensive, after being called out by a lawmaker, the former vice chair of the National Skating Union held a press conference on Monday to insist he was in the dark about what was happening behind the scenes. Yoon Jung-min reports.
In a press conference on Monday, the Young Skaters Association and independent lawmaker Son Hae-won accused more incumbent coaches and trainers for allegedly committing sexual abuse on young skaters, including underage athletes whose identities were withheld.
The victims are concerned of retaliation against them if their identities are publicly disclosed. Even now, they're in fear. Who is to take responsibility for creating such fear?
The skating body also condemned Chun Myung-gyu, professor at the Korea National Sport University and former vice chair of the Korea Skating Union, for allegedly attempting to cover up a series of allegations raised by victims, including short track Olympic champion Kim Seok-ki. The victims have called on investigation on Chun for wielding influence on the skating field and turning a blind eye to the crimes. The association urged a thorough probe into all abuse cases as well as an intensive audit on the National Sports University. On the same day, Chun also held a press conference and apologized for the overall situation, but he also managed to leave some questions by reporters unanswered.
I was not well aware of the sexual abuse on Seok-ki. I also did not know that the perpetrator was her coach. I'm not saying that I'm not responsible for the scandal, but I am sorry and I apologize to her and the public.
Meanwhile, the Korean Sports and Olympic Committee has reportedly been reviewing whether to abolish the skating union amid the series of abuse scandals. The Young Skaters Association, however, urged high-level officials at the committee, including its president Lee Gi-heung, to step down. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Now, a measles outbreak here in South Korea continues to spread. 30 cases have now been confirmed after 3 new ones were reported in areas previously free of the disease, including right here in the South Korean capital. According to the Korea Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the 3 new patients are in Seoul, Gyeonggi-do Province and Jeollanam-do Province, and all of them are separate cases. The patients are in their 30s and recently returned from trips to Vietnam, Thailand and the Philippines. The first case was confirmed last month in the city of Daegu. Experts believe in all cases the virus was carried in from outside the country. Now, on a lighter note, lottery ticket sales in South Korea hit a record high last year, topping $3.5 billion for the first time. It's more than the previous sales record that happened in 2003 when there was a buying frenzy after a winner scooped a record jackpot in April of that year that included money carried over from a number of previous draws. There were 52 draws during 2018 and $1.6 billion was distributed in prize money. Gwanghwamun Square is most certainly one of Seoul's most popular tourist spots and a place of deep cultural importance for Korean people, which is why the Seoul city government is unveiling a multi-million-dollar expansion of the square to celebrate its historic value, and it's going to look pretty nice indeed once it's ready. Oh Se-young reports.
South Korea's iconic Gwanghwamun Square will be expanded into a massive walkable plaza, joining historical landmarks, cultural spaces and transportation links. On Monday, Seoul Mayor Park Won-soon announced the city's plans to invest some $92 million into renovating the public area in order to commemorate 600 years of its historical and democratic significance, as well as make the area more pedestrian-friendly. Under the deep surface concept, the pedestrian strip that currently lies in the centre of the street will be increased nearly fourfold to 69,000 square metres. The statues of King Sejong and Admiral Lee Sun-shin will be moved to either side of the street to make the Gyeongbokgung Palace and Bukhansan Mountain area clearly visible from the square. To promote greenery, the city plans to plant trees and miniature gardens between buildings and on rooftops, and install a sunken garden stretching from the pedestrian strip into the underground area. Under the plan, the underground areas will also be expanded, joining City Hall and Gwanghwamun subway stations to create spaces for concerts, exhibitions and other cultural and educational purposes. The GTX-A subway line, which will run from Paju in the north to Dongtan in Gyeonggi-do province in the south, will make a stop at the underground area once it is built, transforming the area into a major transportation hub. The city government hopes to complete the renovations by May 2021. 오수영 Arirang News.
Good morning. Unseasonably mild temperatures will continue this Tuesday. Highs here in Seoul could climb up to 7 degrees Celsius this afternoon, and that's 5 to 6 degrees higher than these seasonal norms. And the milder than average temperatures will carry on for a few more days. But unlike the clean air we had yesterday, western parts of the country could be covered in a haze of pollution starting this afternoon, with toxic smog sweeping in from overseas, while the regions in the east will be under dry weather alerts, with a warning being in place for parts of Gangwon-do province. And unlike yesterday, we are looking at more sunshine, and daily highs will range between 6 and 11 degrees Celsius, topping out at 7 degrees in Seoul, while many southern provinces will see highs in the double digits this afternoon. Now, apart from the cold temperatures, one concern this winter in Korea is that the number of measles patients has risen sharply since last December. Well, here are some ways to prevent the highly contagious viral disease. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all the news we have for now on this Tuesday morning here in Seoul. Do stay tuned to Arirang TV. Plenty more coming up, including our next newscast at noon Korea time with our very own Lee Ji-yoon. So until then, goodbye.